People keep asking me, how did I get into this whole business of writing? And I stop and think about that, and I realize it probably started when I was 7. And I read my first Western novel. Now, I can't remember the title, but it was probably a Zane Grey novel or something like that. And somehow the magic of all of that captured me. And so I read voraciously. We almost flunked reading in grade school, my buddy Benny and I, because we were busy reading the entire Zane Grey library. We got poor grades in reading because we weren't reading the right stuff. So along about 13, I decided to see if I could try, if I could actually write a story. So I started, the Russian threat was very large in those days, and the threat of Russian invasion. And so I set a story up that involved Russian invasion, bombing of our little town on the Rogue River in Shady Cove, north of Medford, and my buddies and I taking to the hills to fight a guerrilla-style war. And I would write out a chapter by hand and give it to my buddy Nancy Albin, and she would type it up, and then it would make the circle through our senior class. And then they would say, okay, write another chapter, and can I be in this chapter this time? And of course, it's a cast of thousands. It's a war book, Eventually, after I got in college, I reread it and decided that it probably should never see the light of day. But I think I learned some things about writing, and it certainly amused me and got me through my senior year of high school. There was a pause in the fiction writing. I did edit my college newspaper, so I did a lot of writing at that time. And later on, I worked as a writer-editor for the Oregon Department of Education. I published 3 different magazines. Publications, I guess, would be a better way to phrase it. And then I got married and had children and had a career. And 30 years later, I retired, and I decided that I did not want to go to my grave without having found out whether I could write a novel or not. And the outcome of that was Spider Silk. My wife and I sat down at the kitchen table and we wrote biographies for each of the characters, descriptions, how tall are they, any distinguishing marks like Bud Blair's scar in his left eyebrow, backgrounds, family. We really worked hard to develop this cast of characters. And then we picked a setting. And at first there was a mythical western town where Bud Blair, the sheriff, was going to solve all the mystery, the murders. And the more we talked about it, the more we realized the mythical town was actually the little town of Lakeview in deep southeast Oregon. And so that's how Spider Silk came about. I sat down and started writing, and my wife criticized, and she was a good critic and a good editor. And the growth of all that effort was our first novel. I say our first novel because she helps me a lot. My wife, Fi, does. So the first was Spider Silk. And then people who read it said, hey, when's the next book coming out? And I didn't know that I was going to write a second book, and here we are working on book number 5 in the Bud Blair High Desert Murder Mystery Series.